Have you ever looked around at your life and thought, I did everything right, so why do I still feel off? You checked the boxes, met the goals, showed up for everyone, and yet there's this quiet ache, like you're out of rhythm with something deeper. If that's you, this is for you. Not because I have all the answers, but because you're not the only one asking the question. There's a kind of alignment we crave with who we really are, and it's not found by pushing harder, it's found by returning inward. And before we go further, I want to ask something of you. Don't skip around. These 5 truths aren't random tips. They're part of a deeper thread. Miss one, and you might miss the shift that was meant for you. Take your time. Breathe into it. Let this be a space that slows you down instead of speeding you up. And if this message speaks to you, hit that subscribe button. Not for the algorithm, but because this is a space for quiet growth, for reflection, for the kind of presence we rarely get anymore. Most of us are taught how to perform, not how to align. We're rewarded for meeting expectations, but not for meeting ourselves. We chase clarity through achievement, but forget that true clarity comes from within. These 5 ways of aligning with your true self aren't about becoming someone new. They're about returning to who you've always been, beneath the noise, the burnout, the busy. And I'll be honest, the last one still stirs something deep in me. It's the one I come back to when I feel lost in the doing again. 1. Honor the still voice inside you. Your true self rarely shouts. It doesn't rush to be heard. It doesn't scream over the noise. It whispers, in quiet discomfort, in the knot in your stomach after you agree to something you didn't want. In the sudden stillness you feel when you walk away from something that no longer fits. And most of us have spent years learning how to override that voice. We've been trained, not explicitly, but quietly, to keep going. To be polite, to be productive, to be reasonable. Even when something deep inside is whispering, this isn't it. How often do we call ourselves tired? But the truth is, we're disconnected from our own knowing, from that small voice we buried somewhere under calendars, commitments, and keeping it all together. Think about this for a moment. How often have you dismissed your intuition because it didn't match the spreadsheet? Maybe you had a feeling something was off, but everyone around you seemed excited, so you said yes. Or you felt your body asking for rest, but there was a deadline, or guilt, or some invisible standard you didn't want to disappoint. Or maybe there was a person, a job, a dream even, that looked good on paper but didn't feel like peace when you were alone with it. And so you smiled, you nodded, you said yes, and deep inside your real self quietly shrank a little more. That quiet ache after saying yes when you meant no, that's not weakness. That's your truth trying to get your attention. Not to punish you, but to protect you. That ache is wisdom in disguise. So let me ask you gently, where in your life is your still voice speaking, but you haven't been listening? What area have you pushed aside, rationalized, or avoided? Even though something inside keeps nudging you to pay attention. Maybe it's the job that doesn't fit anymore, even though it once did. Maybe it's the friendship that drains you more than it nourishes you. Maybe it's the part of you that wants to slow down, breathe deeper, stop performing. Or maybe it's something so small, so quiet, it almost feels silly, but it keeps resurfacing in your quietest moments. Here's the truth. Alignment doesn't begin with doing. It doesn't begin with fixing, optimizing, or solving. It begins with listening. Not to the loudest opinions, not to the pressure, but to that still voice, the one that's always been yours, the voice that doesn't yell, but never leaves, the one that says, "This is not for you. You're tired. It's okay to rest. You were made for something deeper than this." The more we listen, the more we remember who we are. Not who we were taught to be, not who we perform to be, but who we already are, underneath all the noise. But here's something I've learned. Listening to yourself is only the beginning, because even when you start to hear the truth again, you're still surrounded by things that pull you out of it. So the next step is just as important. You have to reclaim what's yours, your time, your energy, your space, because the world won't give it back on its own. Irende, reclaim your energy from what's not. Your energy, is sacred. It's not just fuel. It's not just capacity. It's life force. It's what gives you presence, clarity, peace, your power to show up as your real self. And yet, most of us give it away. Not to things that honor us, fulfill us, or reflect us, but to expectations, to roles, to invisible contracts we never agreed to. We confuse being available with being aligned. And over time, that slow leak, it drains us. You're not weak for feeling tired. You're probably just carrying too much of what's not even yours. Let's get honest here. How many times have you said yes out of guilt? How often have you ignored that little hesitation in your gut and responded anyway, showed up anyway, gave anyway? How often do you think about someone else's disappointment before you even think about your own well-being? And what about the invisible things, the unspoken expectations, the mental tabs left open, the things you think about while brushing your teeth or lying awake at 1 a.m.? What they need, what you should have done, who's waiting on you? What if they get upset? What if they misunderstand? These are all places your energy leaks, quietly, constantly. And here's the part we don't always realize. You can't align with your true self if your energy is scattered in places that were never meant to hold it. So I want to ask you, not with pressure, but with love, what are you carrying right now? That was never yours to hold. Maybe it's someone else's timeline. Maybe it's a version of success that doesn't even feel right anymore. Maybe it's being the emotional anchor for everyone, while no one holds space for you. Where is your energy going? That doesn't reflect who you are or who you want to become. Reclaiming your energy doesn't require harshness. It doesn't mean cutting everyone off or becoming unreachable. It means returning your energy to what truly matters. It means recognizing this thought, this obligation, this dynamic no longer belongs to me. Not from resentment, not from ego, but from reverence. Reverence for your energy, reverence for your own boundaries, reverence for the limited, beautiful life force you carry, and the truth that you get to choose where it flows. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship of your time, of your heart, of your soul. Letting go is not the same as giving up. Sometimes it's the most powerful alignment move you can make. And once you begin to reclaim what's yours, the next step is knowing where that energy belongs, what guides it, what leads your choices, your voice, your direction, because energy without intention can still get lost. The next truth is where alignment begins to root itself, not in fear, but in values. Let's talk about that. 3. Let your values lead, not your fears. We like to believe our choices are logical, strategic, sensible. But if we're being honest, a lot of our decisions are driven by fear. Fear of being judged, fear of not being enough, fear of missing out, being left behind, letting someone down, standing out too much, or not standing out enough. And here's what's tricky. Fear doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like people-pleasing. Sometimes it looks like overworking. Sometimes it even looks like success. But when fear is driving, your true self doesn't get a seat at the table. You move through life checking boxes, chasing validation, meeting expectations, all while quietly wondering, why doesn't this feel like me? Let me ask you something. Have you ever said yes just to avoid the discomfort of saying no? Have you ever stayed quiet, not because you agreed, but because you didn't want to be seen as too much? Have you ever pushed through something, even when your soul was restless, because you didn't want to look like you were quitting? These aren't just habits, they're coping strategies. They're what we learn to do in a world that rewards fear masked as function. But here's the truth. You weren't made to be led by fear. You were made to be led by truth. And your values, your real ones, are the compass that gets you there. So here's the question I want you to sit with for a moment. What would shift in your life if your values, not your fears, were in the driver's seat? Not what looks good, not what gets approval, but what aligns, what feels like you. What would change in how you speak, how you work, who you say yes to, how you show up in your own skin? It starts with clarity. What are your core values? Not the ones that sound nice on a wall or in a bio, the ones that feel like home, honesty, simplicity, freedom, compassion, stillness, integrity. Your true self speaks in these words because it lives through them. So the next time you face a decision, big or small, ask yourself, is this honoring my values or betraying them? You'll feel the difference. One feels like inner peace, the other feels like quiet self-abandonment. But here's the thing. Even when you're clear on your values, there's still a deeper layer, because a lot of us know our truth, but we're still performing something we learned to be, a role, a mask, a version of ourselves that kept us safe. The next truth might be the hardest, but also the most freeing. It's time to stop performing a version of yourself that's not real. 4. Stop performing a version of yourself that's not true. Sometimes we become so good at playing roles, we forget we were ever anyone else. The achiever, the peacemaker, the strong one, the fixer, the smart one, the one who holds it all together. These identities, they weren't born, they were built, brick by brick, over time, out of protection, out of adaptation, out of survival, and eventually, they become so polished, so praised, so expected, we start confusing them for who we really are. But here's the truth most of us don't say out loud. You can be wildly competent and still feel empty. You can appear calm and be crumbling. You can be seen as strong and still ache to be held. These roles might have helped you cope, but they're not the whole of who you are. Let me ask you, have you ever caught yourself acting how you're supposed to, even when it felt hollow? Smiling when you wanted to speak, saying you're fine when something inside you is unraveling, achieving just to avoid being questioned or seen as falling behind. Maybe you're praised for being calm under pressure, but what if the pressure was never meant to be yours in the first place? What if you've mastered the script, but forgot your soul's language? Where in your life right now are you still performing? Not showing up, not contributing, performing. Where are you editing yourself to fit a version you never chose, but felt obligated to become? And what would it feel like to lay that role down just for a moment, just enough to breathe again? Your true self doesn't need a script. It doesn't need to prove anything. It just needs permission. permission to feel, to be seen, to show up messy, evolving, unfinished. You don't have to become someone new. You just have to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. This remembering, it's not about going backward. It's about reconnecting to the parts of you that were never broken, just buried. And that remembering leads us into something deeper, the deepest alignment of all. Because once the roles fall away, once the noise quiets down, what's left is something unshakable, a stillness, a knowing, a truth that doesn't bend with the world. And that's where we're going next. Pirana, fight for yourself in what doesn't change. The world changes, trends shift, people evolve, dreams expand, and sometimes dissolve. Even the person you were 5 years ago isn't the person sitting here today. But beneath all of that, there is something within you that doesn't move. It doesn't panic. It doesn't chase. It doesn't strive. It just is. That stillness, that center, that deep inner knowing that says, you are already enough. That's what you root into when everything else feels uncertain. Think about it for a moment. When life feels chaotic, fast, or heavy, what do you return to? What grounds you? Not just temporarily, but in a soul-level way. Is it a practice, a place, a belief? Or is it simply that deep inner place where you remember who you are, no matter what the world is doing? You see, we spend so much energy adjusting, adapting, reacting, but alignment comes when we stop reaching outward for peace and return inward to where peace already lives. So I want to ask you something tender. What's the part of you that's never been broken, only buried? What's the truth inside you that doesn't need proof or permission to exist? Maybe it's a quiet confidence, a deep compassion, a childlike creativity that never left. That's your anchor. That's what you root into. Rooting doesn't mean you won't bend with the wind. It means you won't break. It means you begin to live from a place that's centered, not reactive. From a place where decisions aren't made out of fear, but out of truth. From a place where your worth isn't up for debate because you already belong to yourself. Rooting isn't a one-time moment. It's a daily practice, a daily remembering, a daily return. Return to what doesn't change. Return to what is always true. That's your home. If any part of this is landing, don't just watch and forget, subscribe, because this space is here to help you stay close to what matters, not the noise, not the pressure, but your quiet, grounded truth. These 5 truths aren't just concepts, they're invitations to slow down, to return inward, to live with more honesty and less hustle. Let's briefly remember them together. Listen to the still voice within. Reclaim your energy from what's not yours. Let your values lead, not your fears. Stop performing versions of yourself. Root yourself in what doesn't change. True alignment isn't found by becoming more. It's found by becoming more you. And if you've been searching for that, I hope this helped you take one quiet, powerful step back home. You're not alone in this. If you feel called, share in the comments. What resonated most? Where are you learning to realign with your truth? I read everyone, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you.